Have you ever stared at the HOA president's smile and wondered how someone can look so reasonable while quietly stealing your backyard? Have you ever received a friendly reminder letter about community standards and realized the community they're talking about no longer includes you? And have you ever watched a group of grown adults convince themselves that possession equals ownership right up until the moment the sheriff's deputy shows up with paperwork? My name is Mark Thompson. That little lake behind my house, 3 acres of glass-smooth water framed by pines, has been in my family since 1958. My dad built the narrow gravel ramp himself one summer, swearing every time the wheelbarrow dumped concrete. He didn't do it for show. It's rare, and once it's gone you don't get it back. I kept the tradition. Fishing. No lights after dusk. Just me, my dog, and the occasional loon that sounded like it was laughing at the rest of the world. Then Karen Whitaker moved in 3 houses down. Karen didn't introduce herself with a casserole. She introduced herself with a 3-page welcome to the Neighborhood Enhancement Committee packet that arrived in my mailbox the same day her moving truck did. Bullet points included curb appeal expectations, approved exterior color palette, and buried on page 2, shared lakefront enjoyment initiatives. I read it twice. Shared lakefront ownership initiatives. But the tone was unmistakable. This wasn't a suggestion. This was a coronation. The first email blast came 2 months later. Subject line: Exciting lakefront vision revealed. Karen attached a glossy rendering of a floating platform, a community dock and event space, complete with pergola, fairy lights, and a small bar shack. The caption read, "A place for neighbors to gather, celebrate, and create memories." I replied politely, "Can you send the easement documentation and the permit for commercial use across my ramp?" Her response arrived within 11 minutes. "Mark, we appreciate your enthusiasm. This is a long-standing community asset. No need to worry about the details, we've handled everything. Let's focus on the positive." I printed the email. Standing community asset. Tucked it into a folder labeled HOA Fiction. They started small. Testing the water. Then a couple of kayaks. Then someone tied a pontoon to my dock overnight. I took photos. Timestamped them. Board with the subject, "Unauthorized vessels on private property." Karen's reply: "Mark, we're all neighbors here. Let's not make this adversarial. The lake benefits everyone." I didn't answer. By spring they'd escalated to full construction. Barges arrived at dawn. A crane dropped prefab sections into the water like Lego bricks for adults with too much money and not enough boundaries. The platform grew, 20 by 40 feet, topped with artificial turf, cafe tables, and a sign that read, "Willow Lake Community Pavilion. Reserved today." They even installed solar lights so the glow could be seen from space. Every night the lake sounded like a low-budget Vegas lounge. Laughter, clinking glasses, someone attempting karaoke. My dog started hiding under the porch. I went to the county office. No easement. No prescriptive right that would hold up past a first-year law student. The ramp was 100% mine. The water touching it was mine. Taxed in my name since Eisenhower was president. I hired a surveyor anyway. Sunrise, clipboard in hand, and handed me the report with a grin. "Clean as a whistle, mister. Trespassing every time a boat touches that ramp. Every single time." I thanked him, paid the invoice, and added the report to the folder. It was getting thick. Karen smelled resistance. She switched tactics. Started arriving with passive-aggressive wording. Join us to discuss lake access concerns and how one resident's position is affecting neighborhood harmony. Translation: Mark is the problem. At the meeting she stood at the head table in a peach cardigan, hands folded like she was leading prayer. "We've invested significantly in this pavilion to bring us together," she said, voice honeyed. "It's unfortunate that one individual feels the need to obstruct progress." A few heads nodded. I waited until the Q&A. Karen, I have a quick question for the board. Can anyone show me the recorded easement that allows commercial boats to cross my property?
Silence.
She smiled tighter. Under a mutual understanding for years. Years? I asked. Once. Laughter rippled, nervous but real. She pivoted. Historical usage rights. I nodded. Can you share the court ruling that established those rights? More silence. I sat down. Word. The seed was planted. After that, the emails turned nasty. Cease and desist from photographing community activities. Failure to cooperate may result in fines per HOA Covenant Section 4.2. Continued interference could lead to legal action. I printed every one. Silence is loud when the other side is screaming. They booked the pavilion solid for summer. Weddings. Birthday parties with bounce houses strapped to the deck. One weekend they advertised sunset yoga and wine tasting, $75 per person. I watched from my deck with binoculars. Saw Karen in a white sundress, air-kissing guests, accepting compliments like she'd invented water. The folder was now a binder. Medical order. Color-coded. One afternoon and chuckled. They're operating a commercial enterprise on your land without permission. That's not a gray area. Bid. He paused. Demand letter now? I shook my head. Not yet. Slot. Let them collect every deposit. Let them think they've won. He raised an eyebrow. I shrugged. For gravity to do its job. The big night was the annual HOA Lake Lights Festival. Ticketed event. Live band. Karen had promised the most magical evening Willow Lake has ever seen. They started shuttling people at 5 p.m. Pontoons lined up like taxis at an airport. Women in sequin dresses. Champagne flutes catching the sunset. I waited until 7:45 peak hour, then walked down to the ramp in jeans and a hoodie. A county code enforcement officer was already there. Quiet guy named Ray. He liked my dad. I handed him the padlock, hung the official closed, unauthorized use prohibited sign, and took photos. Then he left. I stayed. Gate of my truck. Watched. The first pontoon rounded the bend and slowed. Captain radioed someone. The walkie. Another boat idled behind it. Coughed in neutral. Guests leaned over railings, confused. Where's the dock? Why are we stopping? Someone spotted the chain. Came out. Karen arrived on the fourth boat. Face already red. She stormed up the ramp, well, tried to. Stopped cold at the padlock. She spun toward me. You did this. I nodded once. You can't just lock us out. Actually, I said, I can. It's my ramp. She laughed sharp, brittle. People paid good money. I know, I said. Speed dial for trespassing complaints. Guests started yelling. Get us back to shore. The band stopped mid-song. Karen tried to rally. This is a misunderstanding. A woman in a red dress shouted back. A misunderstanding that's stranding us on the water? Karen's smile cracked. You're ruining everything. I shrugged. Private property. That's not ruin. By 8:30, the lake was a parking lot of confused pontoons. People called Ubers that couldn't reach them. Someone tried to swim, gave up after 10 feet. Reporters showed up. Phones recording. Karen kept repeating variations of temporary issue, and we'll resolve this. No one bought it anymore. Next morning the county rolled in heavy. Inspectors. clients. Building department. They walked the ramp. Photographed. Asked questions. Karen showed up late, makeup smudged, clutching a folder of emails. The lead inspector glanced at it, then at the pavilion. Who authorized commercial use of this access point?
Silence.
He turned to Karen. Have a recorded easement? She opened her mouth. He sighed. Enforcement notices went up that afternoon. Immediate suspension of operations. Unauthorized commercial activity. Violation of zoning and trespass statutes. The pavilion sat empty for a week. Lights off, tables stacked, lanterns deflated. Then the dismantling started. Just work crews unbolting railings at dawn. By the end of the month, the lake looked like it used to. Clean. Karen resigned from the board via email. Subject: personal reasons. Body: 2 paragraphs of vague platitudes. No apology. The HOA rewrote half their covenants. Added phrases like verify property rights and obtain written permission. Neighbors stopped waving at her. Some even waved at me. I still walk the shoreline most evenings. The ramps weathered, unremarkable, still here. Sometimes I think about my dad, about the summer he cursed every bag of concrete. He never had to fight for it. But he taught me something better. The quiet ones don't need to shout. They just need to keep the receipts. And if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that confidence isn't authority. It's just a pretty mask people wear until the paperwork shows up and asks to see ID. Boundaries matter. Paper beats bluster. And sometimes the loudest person in the room ends up being the quietest when the sheriff walks in. That's the real magic of the lake. It doesn't care who's yelling. Just reflects what's actually there. Personal note: Karen didn't start evil, she started entitled. That's how most HOA horror stories begin. The lesson: never mistake volume for validity. Real power doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs the truth on paper. Stay calm, document everything, and let consequences do the talking.